Ever feel like you're just stuck in a rut with your thinking? Like you've only got one hammer and everything looks like a nail? Well, what if I told you your mind isn't just one tool? It's a massive toolbox, a whole spectrum of thinking we can learn to use. So let's dive in, let's explore these different dimensions and really unlock a more flexible, way more powerful way of seeing the world. I love this quote because it nails the central idea here. We've got to forget this whole search for the one right way to think. That's not how it works. True wisdom, it's a dance. It's all about holding that balance right there in the tension between opposite ideas and learning how to move, gracefully from one perspective to the next. So let's break it down. What is this thinking spectrum? Well, you can think of it as this huge collection of cognitive frameworks, basically a toolkit for your brain. And the cool part is, once you understand it, you can start to consciously pick the right tool for the right problem. And that, right there, is what makes us way more effective thinkers. Okay, so here's where we're headed. We're going to start with the dance, then move from the foundational ideas of 0 and 1. After that, we'll get into the world of duality, see the bigger picture, and finally, talk about what it really means to become a master of your own mind. Let's get into it. All right, first up, the dance of the mind. Let's begin. The very first step in any dance, before you can even think about balance, is finding your starting position. And for us, that's a place of complete and utter stillness. In that starting point, it's 0. Yeah, zero-dimensional thinking. I know it might sound a little weird, but stick with me. Before any clear thought can even form, before you can build an argument or solve a problem, you have to find that stillness. It's the foundation for everything else. So what is 0D thinking, really? It's basically like hitting the mental reset button. It's the act of unlearning, of deliberately emptying your mind of all those presets and biases you've got running in the background. You can think of it like mindfulness, It's your anchor in the present moment. And believe me, when your thoughts are getting all chaotic and tangled up, coming back to this 0 point, that's how you get your balance back. Okay, so from that absolute stillness of 0, we finally create our first dimension. We move to a single point of focus. And this is where the real magic, the real leverage begins. So one-dimensional thinking is all about the power of depth. It's about taking a big, messy problem and breaking it down to its smallest, most atomic unit. The goal is to find that one critical point that gives you the most leverage, like the 80-20 rule in action. And really, mastering this is all about digging deep, getting down to that fundamental truth, that first principle, that everything else is built on. All right, you with me? From a single point, we naturally go to a line connecting 2 points. And that brings us into the world of two-dimensional thinking. And let me tell you, this is the world of duality and a whole lot of tension. And this is where things get really interesting, because this is where we see that tension can actually be, beautiful. These dualities, they're not conflicts you're supposed to win. No. They're the opposing forces that create the space for real, nuanced decisions. It's just like the tension on a tightrope is what allows the dancer to perform their magic. So let's look at our first axis, linear versus nonlinear thinking. It's a choice, right? Do you follow a nice, clean, predictable A to B path, or do you embrace the messiness, the unpredictable, emergent patterns of a really complex world? And here's the key. Neither one is better. They're just different tools for completely different situations. Next up, and this one is huge, are you playing a finite game or an infinite one? Think about it. Finite games have winners and losers. The goal is to win and end the game. But infinite games, the whole point is to keep the game going. It's about adapting, evolving. The goal is just to keep playing. And realizing which game you're in, man, that changes your entire strategy. Oh, here's a classic one. Additive versus subtractive thinking. Our default mode for almost all of us is to ask, what can I add to make this better? But so often, the most powerful, elegant solutions come from asking the opposite. What can I remove to improve this? That's the core of minimalism, right? The power of simplification. And finally, let's talk about deterministic versus probabilistic thinking. Do you see the world like a perfectly predictable machine where A always leads to B? Or do you see it more like a casino, a place full of randomness and chance, where the best you can do is just play the odds? It's a fundamental difference in how you see everything. And this quote just sums it all up perfectly. The whole point of 2D thinking isn't to pick a side, to say A is right and B is wrong. No,
The goal is to get up on that balance beam and dance, to find that sweet spot between the two poles that works for whatever challenge you're facing.
Okay, so we've gone from a single point to a line. Now it's time to level up again. Let's see what happens when these lines start to intersect and create entire worlds of understanding. So let me ask you, what do you think happens when we take two of these lines of tension, these dualities, and we cross them? Well, something really, really powerful emerges. You get a surface, a framework. This is 3D thinking, and you've definitely seen this before. The classic urgent, important matrix, that's a perfect example. It takes two of our lines of duality, urgent versus not urgent, and important versus not important, and bam, it creates this incredibly powerful grid for making decisions. And all of a sudden, you're not just reacting to things anymore, you're strategizing. You've literally gone from being a pawn on the chessboard to a player who can see the entire board. But wait, the world isn't just a static chessboard, right? It's constantly changing. So let's add one more absolutely crucial dimension, time. And that takes us up to 4D thinking. Now you're not just looking at a static snapshot. You're watching the whole system breathe and evolve. That task that's super urgent today, it might be totally not important by tomorrow. You're starting to see how everything shifts, how the whole game unfolds over time. Okay, deep breath. We're now entering the highest dimensions of thought. This is the master level. This is where we stop just using the tools and we start becoming aware of the dance itself. So in 5D, we start thinking in pure flux. We're seeing beyond the static systems and focusing on the underlying trends, the flow of evolution, this constant state of becoming rather than just being. And then, at the absolute pinnacle, we hit 6D, metacognition. This is it. This is thinking about your thinking. The dancer on the balance beam, she isn't just going through the motions. She's aware that she's dancing. She's constantly watching her own form, making those tiny, subtle adjustments. That, my friends, is true mastery. Okay, so this is all great, but how do you actually do this? How do you practice it? Well, it's a pretty simple 4-step loop you can run. First, step 1, use that 6D awareness. Just notice what dimension you're currently stuck in. Step 2, expand. Jump to 2D and force yourself to consider the total opposite. Feel that tension, because that's where the new insights come from. Then, step 3, model it out. Use a 3D framework, like a simple 2x2 matrix, to organize your thoughts. And finally, step 4, ascend. Ask yourself how this whole thing is going to change and evolve over time. That's it. That's the practice. And you know, when you really get the hang of the cycle, something profound starts to happen. You stop being just a tool user, someone who just uses the mental models other people hand them. You become the tool creator. You become the architect of your very own ways of thinking. So, I'm going to leave you with this one question to think about. You have this incredible, vast spectrum inside your own mind. You have this balance beam of thought. The only question left is, what beautiful, complex, and totally unique dance are you going to create?